On the world stage today, few leaders shape the direction of a nation of 1.4 billion people and exert such profound influence on the global landscape as Xi Jinping. He stands at the pinnacle of power in the world's most populous country and second-largest economy, holding the top leadership positions in the Chinese Communist Party, the state, and the military. From a bewildered, educated youth on the Loess Plateau to the supreme helmsman steering the course of the Red Empire, Xi Jinping's life trajectory is itself a condensed legend reflecting the transformations of contemporary Chinese history. He experienced the vicissitudes of his father's generation, personally felt the turmoil and hardships of the Cultural Revolution, and rose step by step amidst the tide of reform and opening up. His governing style is strong and confident, using anti-corruption to consolidate popular support and power, outlining the blueprint for national rejuvenation with the Chinese dream, and propelling China towards the center of the world stage with unprecedented force. However, alongside the concentration of power and the establishment of personal authority, controversies and questions follow like shadows. This figure, described by Time magazine as someone who could shape the world's destiny in the 21st century, where do his ideological wellsprings originate? What trajectory does his governing logic follow? Where will he lead China? To understand China today, and indeed the world of tomorrow, one must delve deeply into Xi Jinping's life journey. This is not just the story of one man, but also the choices and shaping of an era, a nation, and a civilization at a historical crossroads. Now, let us step into Xi Jinping's world, starting from his early years, to trace the footsteps of this leader who is profoundly influencing the course of history. Chapter 1: Red Legacy and Early Years. Xi Jinping's starting point in life is deeply imprinted with the color red. He was born on June 15, 1953, in Beijing into a prominent revolutionary family. His father, Xi Jinping, was one of the veterans of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, a principal founder and leader of the Shaanxi-Gansu Border Region Revolutionary Base, and a founding father of the People's Republic of China. Xi Jinping had served in important posts such as Vice Premier of the State Council and Vice Chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, known for his open-mindedness, pragmatic work style, and concern for the people suffering. His mother, Qi Xian, was also an old revolutionary and party member who had experienced the trials of the War of Resistance against Japan and the War of Liberation. Such a family background meant that Xi Jinping lived from a young age within the core circle of the CCP's high-level leadership, exposed to the revolutionary ideals and political practices of his parents' generation, and accessing information and resources unattainable for ordinary people. He is referred to as belonging to the Red Second Generation, or Princelings, an identity that was both his halo and potentially his burden later on. Xi Jinping spent his childhood and adolescence in the relatively privileged environment of Beijing. He attended Beijing Bai School, a school primarily enrolling children of high-ranking CCP cadres. Here, he received orthodox revolutionary education, grew up alongside other Red Second-Generation children, and established his initial network of contacts. According to some memoirs and reports, the young Xi Jinping had a relatively calm and introverted personality, but was not without liveliness. He enjoyed reading, showing particular interest in history and literature. At the same time, like many children of that era, he loved sports, especially football. However, this peaceful life did not last long. Xi Jinping's family, and indeed all of China, was soon engulfed in a massive political storm. In 1962, due to the novel Liu Zhidan, which was deemed to be reversing the verdict on Gao Gang and using a novel to oppose the party, then Vice Premier Xi Jinping was cruelly framed and criticized by Kang Sheng and others. He was labeled the chief culprit of the Xi Jinping anti-party clique, stripped of all his posts, and sent down to work at the Luoyang mining machinery plant. This incident dealt a devastating blow to the 9-year-old Xi Jinping and his family. Overnight, they fell from a respected revolutionary family to being relatives of an anti-party clique, facing political discrimination, economic hardship, and immense psychological pressure. Xi Jinping's wrongful accusation made the young Xi Jinping prematurely experience the ruthless cruelty of political struggle and the fickleness of human relationships. He fell from the privileged position of a red second-generation member to become an object of ostracism and bullying. According to his later recollections, during that period, he was often pointed at and whispered about, even subjected to physical attacks. The sudden family upheaval undoubtedly left an indelible mark deep in his soul, giving him a more complex and profound understanding of power, politics, and human nature. This experience may have shaped the tough, stoic, and cautious side of his personality later in life, and perhaps instilled in him a stronger awareness of the need to maintain power and prevent its loss of control. As Xi Jinping's case escalated, the family's situation became increasingly difficult. In 1965, Xi Jinping enrolled in Beijing No. 25 Middle School. Just 1 year later, in 1966, the unprecedented Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution erupted. This political catastrophe that swept across the country completely overturned the existing social order and ethical norms. Schools were closed, the Red Guard movement surged, and struggle sessions, house raids, and violent factional fights became rampant. As the child of a black gang member, Xi Jinping's situation became even more dangerous and difficult. In the early stages of the Cultural Revolution, the theory of blood lineage was prevalent, with slogans like, "If the father is a hero, the son is a good chap. If the father is a reactionary, the son is a bastard," echoing everywhere. Cadre children like Xi Jinping, whose fathers had been overthrown, found themselves in an extremely awkward position. They were neither the Red 5 categories with impeccable revolutionary credentials nor clearly defined Black 5 categories, but existed in a gray area, often targeted and marginalized by different factions. It is reported that Xi Jinping, for saying a few words against the Central Cultural Revolution Group, was branded a current counter-revolutionary, subjected to criticism, and even detained. He recalled in an interview, "At that time, I was not even 15. My father had not yet been rehabilitated. As a result, I was taken to the Central Party School, where a struggle session was held. They prepared a tall dunce cap for me, but didn't make me wear it. After the criticism meeting, I was defiant, saying I didn't qualify as a current counter-revolutionary. I asked what they wanted to do. They said, 'His attitude is quite tough. Let's send him to the juvenile reformatory.'" This experience of being criticized and possibly briefly detained was undoubtedly extremely painful and humiliating for a teenager. It further intensified Xi Jinping's fear and aversion towards political movements and deepened his understanding of the insignificance and helplessness of individual destiny amidst the torrents of the era. In that turbulent age, he lost the opportunity for normal education and witnessed the distortion of human nature and social disorder. The broken family, political persecution, and youthful confusion collectively formed the heavy backdrop of Xi Jinping's early years. While painful, this experience likely tempered his will, cultivated his ability to observe people's expressions and adapt to circumstances, and survive in adversity. He was not an idealist who grew up in a vacuum, but rather someone who encountered the truest and cruelest side of Chinese politics early on. This memory, along with his father's revolutionary experiences, jointly shaped the complex foundation of his worldview and political outlook, setting the stage for his 7 years of tempering on the Loess Plateau. It can be said that Xi Jinping's early years were filled with the inheritance of red genes and the baptism of political storms, and this dual imprint profoundly influenced his life trajectory and governing philosophy. Chapter 2: Tempering in the Cultural Revolution and Liang Jiahe. At the end of 1968, Mao Zedong issued the call for educated youth to go to the countryside to be re-educated by the poorer and lower-middle peasants. It is highly necessary, triggering the climax of the Up to the Mountains and Down to the Countryside movement. For Black Gang, children like Xi Jinping, whose situation in Beijing was difficult, leaving the chaotic capital for the remote countryside might not have been entirely bad, perhaps even a form of escape and liberation. In January 1969, Xi Jinping, then only 15 and below the legal age for resettlement, actively applied and was approved to join a large group of Beijing-educated youth on a special train bound for Liangjiahe Brigade, Wenani Commune, Yanchuan County, Yan'an Prefecture, Shaanxi Province, to settle down. Choosing Yan'an might have held special significance for Xi Jinping. Yan'an was the sacred site of the CCP revolution and a place where his father, Xi Jinping, had once fought and worked. Returning to this Loess land seemed to carry a sense of searching for roots and spiritual sustenance. However, what awaited him was not revolutionary romantic poetry, but extremely harsh reality. Liangjiahe, located in the heart of the Loess Plateau, was characterized by crisscrossing gullies, barren land, arid climate, and exceptionally harsh living conditions. Local peasants lived an almost primitive farming life, where lack of food and clothing was the norm. For Xi Jinping, who grew up in Beijing, everything in Liangjiahe posed a huge challenge. First was the challenge of daily life. They lived in earthen cave dwellings, yaodong, which were cold in winter and hot in summer, slept on earthen beds, kong, and drank brackish water. Food was scarce, consisting mainly of coarse grains, with few vegetables and meat being a luxury. Heavy physical labor was another severe test. The educated youth had to work alongside local peasants from sunrise to sunset, engaging in various farm tasks like digging earth, carrying manure, planting crops, and harvesting. Xi Jinping later recalled that when he first arrived in Liangjiahe, he couldn't even endure the flea bites, getting covered in bites. The intensity of the labor was also hard for him to adapt to. He mentioned that when he first started carrying loads with a shoulder pole, his shoulders got blistered. He switched sides, only to get blistered again, eventually having to carry things on his back. Besides the hardships of life and labor, spiritual loss and confusion were also prevalent. The immense gap between the capital and this remote, isolated mountain gully, coupled with a sense of hopelessness about the future, deeply troubled these young educated youths. Xi Jinping was no exception. According to his own and other educated youths' recollections, in the first few months in Liangjiahe, he wasn't very active, even somewhat dispirited. Once, unable to bear the hardships, he secretly ran back to Beijing. However, the Beijing of that time was no longer the home he knew. Without a household registration, hukou, or grain coupons, he couldn't get by. A few months later, he was sent back to Liangjiahe as someone who had flowed back. This failed escape seems to have become a turning point in Xi Jinping's life. He realized that escaping was not a solution. He had to face reality and put down roots in Liangjiahe. After this shift in mindset, Xi Jinping began to engage in rural life with a more positive and pragmatic attitude. He diligently learned farming skills, sought advice from the villagers, and gradually adapted to the high-intensity physical labor. He no longer saw himself as a passerby, but truly integrated among the local peasants. He ate, worked, smoked, and chatted with the villagers, sharing stories from Beijing and listening to their tales of hardship on the Loess land. His sincere and unpretentious attitude earned him the trust and acceptance of the villagers. They felt that this young man from Beijing wasn't as pampered as some other educated youth, could endure hardship, and didn't disdain the countryside, so they were willing to help and protect him. During his 7 years in Liangjiahe, Xi Jinping not only built up his physique, but more importantly, gained a deep understanding of China's bottom-level rural society and the hardships of the peasants. He witnessed firsthand the reality of poverty and backwardness and experienced the difficulties of peasant survival. This down-to-earth experience gave him a more tangible and profound understanding of China's national conditions. This stood in stark contrast to his earlier life in Beijing's high-level circles and likely shaped his later governing style, which emphasizes attention to people's livelihood and practical work. Even in the harsh environment, Xi Jinping did not give up learning. He carried a wooden chest full of books. During breaks from labor, he often read late into the night by the light of a kerosene lamp. It is said that he read a large number of Chinese and foreign classics, including Marxist classics, ancient Chinese texts, and Western philosophy and literature. This period of reading and reflection laid the foundation for his later accumulation of knowledge and formation of his ideological system. Due to his father's unresolved political issues, Xi Jinping still faced discrimination. He applied multiple times to join the Chinese Communist Party, but was rejected due to his family background. However, he did not lose heart, persisted in performing well, and actively sought to align himself with the organization. Finally, in January 1974, through unremitting efforts and the recommendation of the local party organization, Xi Jinping's wish was granted, and he joined the CCP. This was undoubtedly an important political milestone for him, signifying that he had regained the organization's recognition and could continue along the path of his forebears. After joining the party, Xi Jinping became even more motivated. He was elected party branch secretary of the Liangjiahe Brigade. Although it was just a grassroots village cadre position, Xi Jinping demonstrated initial leadership talent and a spirit of practical work. He led the villagers in building dams to create farmland, developing production, and improving living conditions. One of the most talked about achievements was learning about the experience of using biogas to solve fuel problems in some parts of Sichuan. He went to study it, returned, and led the villagers to build the first biogas digester in Shaanxi province in Liangjiahe, solving the fuel difficulties for cooking and lighting for some villagers. This seemingly small matter reflected his willingness to learn new things, courage to practice, and work style of doing practical things for the people. During his tenure as brigade secretary, Xi Jinping further accumulated experience in handling grassroots affairs, interacting with peasants, and organizing and mobilizing the masses. This experience gave him a deeper understanding of the operational methods of rural China and the mindset of the peasants. He later repeatedly stated that the 7 years in Liangjiahe were a very precious period in his life, which taught him what reality is, what seeking truth from facts is, and what the masses are. This period of tempering his mind and toughening his sinews shaped his willpower and character, and also laid the grassroots foundation for his political career. This experience has been repeatedly publicized by official media, becoming important material for shaping his image as being close to the people and pragmatic, and likely profoundly influenced his understanding of Chinese society and history. Liangjiahe, this small village on the Loess Plateau, became an important window for understanding the sources of Xi Jinping's thought and his governing logic. Chapter 3: Tsinghua Years and Career Beginnings. In the autumn of 1975, 22-year-old Xi Jinping bid farewell to the Loess caves of Liangjiahe and entered Tsinghua University, one of China's top institutions of higher learning. He was recommended to study basic organic synthesis in the Department of Chemical Engineering, becoming a worker-peasant-soldier student. It should be noted that the university admission system during the Cultural Revolution differed from normal times. Worker-peasant-soldier students were primarily admitted based on recommendations from the masses and approval by leaders, rather than through unified exams. Their academic foundation was relatively weak, and the curriculum also carried strong political overtones and a practical orientation. Therefore, Xi Jinping's learning experience at Tsinghua was significantly different from that of university students admitted after the resumption of the National College Entrance Examination, Gaokao, following the reform and opening up. Nevertheless, being able to study at Tsinghua University was still an extremely precious opportunity for Xi Jinping, who had just emerged from the countryside. He cherished this hard-won time for learning. According to his classmates' recollections, Xi Jinping studied hard during university, was low-key, steady, and unassuming. He maintained the reading habit developed in Liangjiahe, extensively exploring various books. Besides his major courses, he also showed strong interest in social sciences such as Marxist-Leninist theory, political economy, and history. Tsinghua University's rigorous academic style and strong scholarly atmosphere undoubtedly broadened his horizons and enhanced his theoretical literacy. During his studies at Tsinghua, China's political situation was also quietly changing. In 1976, Mao Zedong passed away, the Gang of Four was smashed, and the Cultural Revolution was declared over. China began to enter a new historical period. For Xi Jinping's family, this meant a turning point. In 1978, thanks to the intervention of Deng Xiaoping, Yi Jianying, and others, Xi Zhongshuan's wrongful case was overturned, and his reputation and work were restored. Xi Jinping's comeback not only washed away the family's years of humiliation but also cleared significant political obstacles for Xi Jinping's future development. His father's rehabilitation allowed Xi Jinping to participate more confidently in political life and regained him the identity advantages and network resources of the Red second generation. In early 1979, Xi Jinping graduated from Tsinghua University. His first job after graduation clearly showed the influence of his family background. He did not directly enter the chemical industry, but was assigned to the General Office of the Central Military Commission, CMC, serving as secretary to Geng Biao, then vice premier of the State Council and secretary general of the CMC. Geng Biao was an old subordinate and comrade-in-arms of Xi Jinping, with close ties. This position allowed Xi Jinping close access to China's top decision-making circle and an understanding of the operational methods of central organs, especially the military high command. During his 3 years working alongside Geng Biao, he handled a large amount of military and political affairs, accumulated valuable high-level work experience, and established and expanded his network within the military and central ministries. This experience played a crucial role in helping him understand national policies, familiarize himself with the rules of power operation, and cultivate a macroscopic perspective. However, unexpectedly, after working at the Central Military Commission for 3 years, Xi Jinping made a decision in 1982 that puzzled many. He requested to leave Beijing and work at the grassroots level. At that time, the tide of reform and opening up was surging, and many children of cadres chose to stay in central organs in Beijing, study abroad, or go into business. Xi Jinping chose a different path. There are various interpretations of why he made this decision. The official narrative is that he hoped to delve into the grassroots, understand the national conditions, accumulate practical experience, and did not want to live under the halo of his father. Some analyses suggest he might have realized that relying solely on his father's connections for promotion in Beijing would lack a solid foundation, and it would be better to gain experience in the provinces, build his own political achievements and team, and follow a more solid path to career advancement. Furthermore, having experienced the turmoil of the Cultural Revolution and the ups and downs of his family, he might have preferred a relatively stable and low-key development path. Whatever the reason, Xi Jinping's choice was eventually approved. In March 1982, he arrived in Zhengding County, Hebei Province, serving as Deputy County Party Secretary. Zhengding County, near Shijiazhuang, was a large agricultural county with a long history but relatively poor and backward. Moving from being a senior secretary at the Central Military Commission to a deputy leader in a northern county town was a significant leap. In Zhengding, Xi Jinping began another important period of tempering in his life. Upon arriving in Zhengding, Xi Jinping displayed a pragmatic and approachable work style. He often rode a bicycle to the countryside for investigation, visiting households and understanding public sentiment. He emphasized investigation and research, stressing seeking truth from facts. In his work, he was open-minded and dared to innovate. To develop Zhengding's economy, he actively promoted reforms and vigorously introduced talent and technology. One widely known example is his strong advocacy for building the Rongguo Mansion, a large-scale filming base for the classic novel, Dream of the Red Chamber. At the time, this project was highly controversial, with many deeming it too costly and risky. But Xi Jinping saw the potential of cultural tourism, withstood the pressure, and ultimately facilitated the project's implementation. After its completion, Rongguo not only successfully attracted the Dream of the Red Chamber crew for filming but also became an important local tourist attraction, driving the development of related industries and bringing considerable economic benefits and fame to Zhengding. This incident fully demonstrated Xi Jinping's decisiveness and courage to take responsibility. In terms of talent recruitment, Xi Jinping was equally unconventional. He personally wrote a notice seeking worthies, inviting talents from across the country, and formulated a series of preferential policies to attract various experts, scholars, and technical personnel to work in Zhengding. This emphasis on and thirst for talent also became a characteristic of his later governance. At the end of 1983, at the young age of 30, Xi Jinping was promoted to party secretary of Zhengding County, becoming the #1 leader, of this county with a population of 1 million. While leading Jingding, he continued to deepen reforms, promote adjustments in agricultural industrial structure, develop township enterprises, and improve infrastructure. He paid attention to maintaining good relations with superiors and neighboring areas, actively seeking resources and support. At the same time, he also began consciously interacting with the news media, publicizing Jingding's development achievements and reform experiences. He published articles in central media outlets like the People's Daily, articulating his reform ideas and practices, gradually building a certain national reputation. During his work in Jingding, Xi Jinping's personal life also changed. He divorced his first wife, Ke Lingling, daughter of Ku Hua, former Chinese ambassador to the UK, due to reasons such as long separations and differing views. In 1987, through a friend's introduction, he met Peng Liyuan, who was already a famous singer. They fell in love at first sight and married in Xiamen in September of the same year. Peng Liyuan's fame and artist status complemented Xi Jinping's low-key, pragmatic official image and also added a unique element to his public persona later on. The more than 3 years in Jingding marked the true beginning of Xi Jinping's political career. He transformed from a secretary in a central organ into a local official capable of governing a region independently. Here, he accumulated valuable grassroots leadership experience, put his reform ideas into practice, and initially demonstrated his political talent and ambition. This experience not only further familiarized him with China's grassroots operations, but also laid a solid foundation for him to exercise his talents on a broader stage later. Jingding became the first stop on his journey away from Beijing towards the provinces, independently embarking on his official career. Chapter 4: Provincial Experience and Rising Prominence. After making a mark in Jingding, Hebei, Xi Jinping's official career entered a new phase as he was transferred to Fujian Province, a frontline province in China's reform and opening up. From 1985 to 2002, Xi Jinping worked in Fujian for 17 years, the longest and a highly critical period in his political career. In this southeastern coastal region, he gained experience in multiple important positions, starting as vice mayor of Xiamen, then serving successively as party secretary of Ningde Prefecture, party secretary of Fuzhou City, deputy party secretary of Fujian Province, acting governor, and finally governor of Fujian Province. He accumulated experience and rose through the ranks step by step, ultimately forming the prototype of his unique governing style and philosophy. In June 1985, Xi Jinping was transferred to be a member of the Standing Committee of the Xiamen Municipal Party Committee and Vice Mayor of Xiamen City. Xiamen was one of China's first 4 special economic zones, SEZs, adjacent to Taiwan, possessing special geographical location and policy advantages. Moving to Xiamen meant Xi Jinping entered the core zone of reform and opening up, directly confronting a series of new challenges, such as opening to the outside world, attracting foreign investment, and developing a market economy. During his tenure in Xiamen, he was mainly responsible for urban planning, construction, and foreign economic trade. He actively promoted Xiamen's economic development and opening up, participating in the formulation of the Xiamen Economic and Social Development Strategy for 1985 to 2000, which blueprinted the city's long-term development. He also focused on improving the investment environment and attracting foreign capital, especially from Taiwan. This experience gave him a deeper understanding of the operational model of SEZs and the laws of the market economy. In 1988, Xi Jinping was transferred to be party secretary of Ningde Prefecture in Fujian Province. Ningde, located in the eastern part of Fujian, Mindong, was one of the poorest and most backward areas in the province at the time, presenting a stark contrast to Xiamen. Moving from a bustling SEZ to become the #1 leader of a poor region was another significant test. In Ningde, Xi Jinping once again demonstrated his pragmatic work style of going deep into the grassroots. Shortly after taking office, he spent considerable time conducting investigations in the countryside, visiting all 9 counties under Ningde's jurisdiction, gaining a deep understanding of the local poverty situation and development bottlenecks. He put forward the spirit of weak birds fly first, and water dripping relentlessly pierces stone, encouraging cadres and the masses to shake off poverty and accelerate development. He emphasized that officials should not think about getting rich, demanding cadres to be clean and honest and change their work style. During his time in Ningda, he vigorously promoted infrastructure construction, improved transportation conditions, developed characteristic agriculture and aquaculture, and actively explored new ways of poverty alleviation and development. He also paid special attention to petition work, letters, and visits from the public, personally handling mass correspondence and visits to solve practical problems. Although his 2 years in Ningda were not long, this experience of governing a poor region deepened his understanding of issues like unbalanced regional development and the urban-rural gap, and honed his ability to manage complex situations and handle difficult problems. In 1990, Xi Jinping was promoted to party secretary of Fuzhou City and later concurrently served as chairman of the Fuzhou Municipal People's Congress Standing Committee, governing this provincial capital of Fujian for 6 years. Fuzhou is the political, economic, and cultural center of Fujian, as well as an important coastal open city. While governing Fuzhou, Xi Jinping proposed the goal of building a modern international city, vigorously promoting urban construction and economic development. He presided over the formulation of the Fuzhou City 20-year Economic and Social Development Strategic Vision, known as the 3820 Project, planning for Fuzhou's future development direction, industrial layout, urban planning, etc., with a long-term perspective. He attached importance to attracting investment, especially Taiwanese and foreign capital, promoting the implementation of a number of major projects. He also paid attention to urban management and environmental protection, proposing the concept of building a coastal city, mountain and water city. During his time in Fuzhou, Xi Jinping earned a good reputation for his steady, pragmatic style and open mindset. In 1995, Xi Jinping was promoted to Deputy Party Secretary of Fujian Province, continuing to serve concurrently as Fuzhou Party Secretary. As Deputy Provincial Party Secretary, his responsibilities expanded, and he began participating in macro-level decision-making for the entire province. In 1999, he became Vice Governor and Acting Governor of Fujian Province and was formally elected governor in early 2000, becoming a full provincial-level cadre. While leading Fujian, he continued to promote economic development, opening up, and institutional reform. He proposed the strategic concept of building an ecological province, placing environmental protection in a more prominent position. He also actively promoted cross-strait cooperation between Fujian and Taiwan, leveraging Fujian's advantages in relation to Taiwan to strengthen economic, trade, and cultural exchanges across the strait. However, in his later years in Fujian, Xi Jinping also experienced a major political storm, the Xiamen Yuanhua smuggling case. This case occurred in the mid to late 1990s, involved enormous sums of money and numerous officials, shocking the entire country. Xi Jinping was then Deputy Party Secretary and Governor of Fujian Province. Although not directly implicated in the case, as one of the main leaders of Fujian, he undoubtedly faced immense political pressure. He actively cooperated with the central investigation and played an important role in the handling and subsequent rectification work of the case. Some analysts believe his ability to emerge unscathed from this storm and eventually gain promotion demonstrated his steady political maneuvering skills and the trust of the higher-ups. This experience might also have given him a more personal understanding of the severity and complexity of the anti-corruption struggle. During his work in Fujian, Xi Jinping also pursued an in-service postgraduate degree at Tsinghua University's School of Humanities and Social Sciences, studying Marxist theory and ideological and political education, obtaining a Doctor of Law degree in 2002. His doctoral dissertation was titled, A Study on China's Rural Marketization. However, the process of obtaining this in-service doctorate and the quality of his dissertation later sparked some controversy and questions. In October 2002, after working in Fujian for 17 years, Xi Jinping was transferred from Fujian to the more economically developed Zhejiang province, serving as Deputy Party Secretary and Acting Governor. Soon after, he was promoted to Party Secretary of Zhejiang Province and Chairman of the Standing Committee of the Zhejiang Provincial People's Congress. Zhejiang is one of China's most dynamic provinces in terms of market economy and private enterprise development. Governing Zhejiang represented a new platform and challenge for Xi Jinping. During his nearly 5 years in Zhejiang, 2002 to 2007, Xi Jinping built upon and developed the good foundation laid by previous Zhejiang leaders, proposing a series of new development ideas and measures tailored to Zhejiang's reality. He highly valued the development of the private economy, emphasizing the need to leverage Zhejiang's institutional advantages, optimize the business environment, and support private enterprises to grow bigger and stronger. He summarized and refined the Zhejiang spirit, seeking truth and being pragmatic, integrity and harmony, openness and striving for strength, and based on this, proposed the 8-8 strategy, aimed at promoting Zhejiang's comprehensive development, covering various aspects including economy, politics, culture, society, and ecology, which became the guiding blueprint for Zhejiang's development. In Zhejiang, Xi Jinping also particularly emphasized the rule of law and government self-reform. He proposed building a rule of law Zhejiang and safe Zhejiang, requiring governments at all levels to administer according to law and improve governance capabilities. He also valued ecological environmental protection, carrying forward the ecological province concept proposed in Fujian and further deepening it in Zhejiang, famously stating that lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets, emphasizing that economic development cannot come at the cost of sacrificing the environment. This concept later became one of the important guiding principles of his national governance. During his time in Zhejiang, Xi Jinping also focused on party building, demanding party members and cadres to enhance their awareness of governance and potential dangers. He presented a low-key, pragmatic, and people-friendly image to the public, frequently conducting grassroots investigations and holding discussions with entrepreneurs and ordinary citizens. He started a column titled Zhejiang Sinew, New Words from the Zhe River, in the Zhejiang Daily, publishing 232 short essays under the pen name Zhe Xian, expressing his views and thoughts on various issues in politics, economy, culture, and society. These short articles, written in a simple style with clear viewpoints, reflected his concern for practical issues combined with theoretical thinking, and also became a window for the outside world to understand his governing philosophy. Through more than 2 decades of experience in Fujian and Zhejiang, 2 economically developed coastal provinces in southeastern China, Xi Jinping accumulated rich experience in local governance, becoming familiar with various aspects such as economic construction, opening up, regional development, and social management. With his image of being steady, pragmatic, and focused on long-term planning and strategic thinking, he gradually gained prominence in the CCP political arena. His ability to handle complex issues and manage the overall situation was tempered and recognized. This long and solid period of local work experience not only laid a solid foundation of political achievements for his subsequent promotion to the central government, but also shaped his profound understanding of China's national conditions and development path, forming the prototype of a series of his important governing concepts and strategic thoughts. From Zhengding to Fujian and then to Zhejiang, Xi Jinping's official career path steadily ascended, and his political energy and influence continuously accumulated. Chapter 5: Promotion to the Center and the Pinnacle of Power. After extensive experience in key local positions across Hebei, Fujian, and Zhejiang, Xi Jinping's political resume grew increasingly substantial, and his governing abilities gained widespread recognition. In 2007, a sudden event brought a critical turning point to his career, propelling him closer to the center of power. In March of that year, Shanghai Party Secretary Chen Liangyu was dismissed and investigated for serious corruption involving the misuse of social security funds, sending shockwaves through the political establishment. At this crucial moment, the CCP Central Committee decided to dispatch Xi Jinping, then Party Secretary of Zhejiang Province, to Shanghai as an emergency airdrop appointment to take over as party secretary. Shanghai is China's largest economic center and an international metropolis. Its party secretary position has historically been regarded as an important springboard to the Politburo Standing Committee. The central leadership's choice of Xi Jinping to stabilize the situation in Shanghai demonstrated their high degree of trust in him and affirmation of his political capabilities. On one hand, Xi Jinping possessed rich experience governing developed coastal regions and was familiar with economic work. On the other hand, he was not a member of the Shanghai Gang, allowing him to handle the aftermath of the Chen Liangyu case and stabilize the cadre ranks with relative detachment. Although Xi Jinping's time in Shanghai was short, only 7 months, he quickly stabilized the situation, maintained the positive momentum of Shanghai's economic and social development, and successfulully ensured Shanghai's political stability leading up to the 17th National Congress of the CCP in 2007. This experience of firefighting at a critical moment further enhanced his prestige and standing within the party. In October 2007, the globally watched 17th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party convened in Beijing. This Congress not only elected a new central leadership collective, but, more importantly, determined the successor to Hu Jintao. At this Congress, 54-year-old Xi Jinping and 52-year-old Li Keqiang were both elected to the CCP Central Politburo Standing Committee, entering the highest decision-making body of the CCP. In the ranking of the 9 standing committee members, Xi Jinping was placed 5th, following Hu Jintao, Wu Bangui, Wen Jiabao, and Jia Qinglin, while Li Keqiang was 6th. This ranking order was widely interpreted by the outside world as establishing Xi Jinping as Hu Jintao's first-in-line successor, poised to take over the party's top leadership position at the 18th Party Congress 5 years later. Xi Jinping's ability to emerge from numerous competitors to become the designated successor to the paramount power was the result of a combination of factors. Firstly, his red second-generation background played a significant role. Within the CCP, veterans and their descendants still wield considerable influence. Xi Jinping, as a highly respected, open-minded veteran, won Xi Jinping's support from elders across different factions. Secondly, he possessed a complete resume, including arduous sent-down youth experience, familiarity with the grassroots, and long-term work experience in different types and levels of localities like Hebei, Fujian, Zhejiang, and Shanghai, with solid achievements and comprehensive capabilities. Thirdly, his style was relatively low-key and steady, not ostentatious, giving the impression of reliability and the ability to unite various forces. This might have been favored by the party's top echelon after the turmoil caused by high-profile, controversial figures like Chen Liangyu and Bo Xilai, whose ambition was already apparent. Fourthly, he was seen as capable of maintaining balance among different political factions and acceptable to all sides. In comparison, fellow princeling Bo Xilai was too high-profile, and his methods caused controversy. While Li Keqiang, with his youth league background, was young and capable, Xi Jinping seemed to garner broader support from veterans and factions in the political landscape of the time. After entering the Politburo Standing Committee, Xi Jinping began to assume more important responsibilities. In March 2008, at the first session of the 11th National People's Congress, he was elected Vice President of the People's Republic of China, formally becoming the second highest leader at the state level. Concurrently, he held other key posts such as Secretary of the Central Secretariat, responsible for daily party affairs, and President of the Central Party School, responsible for cadre theoretical training and ideological construction. As Vice President and designated successor, Xi Jinping began to play an increasingly important role on both domestic and international stages. Domestically, he oversaw the preparations for the 2008 Beijing Olympics and Paralympics, the successful execution of which earned him praise. He was also responsible for handling Hong Kong and Macau affairs, party building, and organizational work. He frequently conducted inspection tours across the country, gathering information, guiding work, and gradually familiarizing himself with and mastering the overall situation. Internationally, Xi Jinping began frequent overseas visits, representing China in meetings with world leaders, articulating China's foreign policy and positions, and enhancing China's international image. His travels spanned 5 continents, bringing him into extensive contact with foreign dignitaries, entrepreneurs, scholars, and others, allowing him to accumulate rich diplomatic experience and enabling the international community to begin recognizing and understanding this future leader of China. His words and actions during foreign visits displayed the confidence of a major power leader while also conveying approachability, leaving some memorable moments. For instance, during a visit to Mexico in 2009, responding to criticism of China from some Western countries, he famously remarked off-script, "There are some foreigners with full bellies who have nothing better to do than point fingers at us." China, first, does not export revolution, second, does not export hunger and poverty, and third, does not mess around with you. What else is there to say? This slightly assertive statement perhaps foreshadowed his later, more confident, and even assertive diplomatic style. During the 5-year transition period as successor, 2007 to 2012, Xi Jinping's most critical step was gradually taking control of military power. The military holds a decisive position in the Chinese political system, with the concept of political power grows out of the barrel of a gun, deeply ingrained. Whether the paramount leader can firmly grasp military power is the core indicator of the stability of their authority. In October 2010, at the 5th plenary session of the 17th CCP Central Committee, Xi Jinping was appointed vice chairman of the CCP's Central Military Commission, CMC. 2 years later, in November 2012, at the first plenary session of the 18th CCP Central Committee, Hu Jintao made the decision to retire completely, naked retreat, simultaneously transferring both the top positions of CCP General Secretary and CMC Chairman to Xi Jinping. This move was seen as breaking the precedent of past power transitions, where the CMC chairmanship was often handed over later, helping Xi Jinping consolidate power quickly and avoid a situation of two power centers. Hu Jintao's noble character and sterling integrity were also widely praised. However, the period leading up to Xi Jinping's succession was not entirely calm in Chinese politics. In early 2012, the incident where Chongqing Vice Mayor Wang Lijun fled to the U.S. consulate in Chengdu triggered the Bo Xilai scandal, shocking China and the world. Bo Xilai, then a Politburo member and party secretary of Chongqing, had been considered a strong contender for promotion to the Standing Committee or even challenging for higher positions at the 18th Party Congress. Bo's Singing Red, Striking Black campaign in Chongqing, while winning support from some grassroots segments, also sparked huge controversy regarding a potential return to Cultural Revolution methods and undermining the rule of law. The Wang Lijun incident ultimately led to Bo Xilai's downfall and life imprisonment sentence. This event not only removed a potential political rival for Xi Jinping but also exposed the intensity of high-level power struggles within the CCP and the severity of corruption. Some analysts believe the impact of the Bo Xilai incident may have further strengthened Xi Jinping's resolve to launch a fierce anti-corruption campaign and centralize power after taking office. On November 15, 2012, at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, the newly concluded first plenary session of the 18th CCP Central Committee elected the new Politburo Standing Committee. Xi Jinping led the other 6 members, Li Keqiang, Zhang Dejiang, Yu Zhengsheng, Lu Yunshan, Wang Qishan, Zhang Gaoli, in their first collective appearance and delivered an inaugural speech. In this speech, Xi Jinping spoke with a firm tone and confident posture, discussing the responsibilities of the new leadership collective, the people's aspirations for a better life, and frankly addressing the severe challenges facing the party, such as corruption. He pledged to work together with all comrades in the party and people of all ethnic groups across the country, take over the baton of history, and continue to strive for the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Thus, after decades of local tempering and 5 years of careful planning at the center, Xi Jinping formally ascended to the highest peak of political power in China, ushering in his era as the paramount leader. From being the descendant of a revolutionary veteran, enduring the hardships of the Cultural Revolution, taking root on the Loess Plateau, steadily rising through the ranks in developed coastal regions, and finally emerging victorious in complex political maneuvering, he reached the pinnacle of power. What he inherited was a China experiencing rapid economic development, but also rife with contradictions, with immense achievements, but also facing severe challenges. The world watched intently, wondering how this new helmsman of the CCP would lead this vast country, navigate the complex domestic and international situations, and realize the Chinese dream of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation he had promised. An era belonging to Xi Jinping had officially begun. Chapter 6: Governing Philosophy and Imprint on the Era. Since ascending to the pinnacle of power in November 2012, Xi Jinping has, with unprecedented speed and intensity, profoundly changed China's political ecology, economic landscape, social fabric, and international standing, leaving an exceptionally distinct personal imprint on the history of the Chinese Communist Party. His governing style is widely regarded as strong, confident, emphasizing top-level design and strategic planning, yet accompanied by an unparalleled concentration of power and a significant tightening of ideology. Understanding the Xi Jinping era requires examining it through several key dimensions. Consolidation and concentration of power. From the outset, Xi Jinping exhibited a tougher style distinct from his predecessor. The most striking initiative was undoubtedly the massive and ongoing anti-corruption campaign. He vowed to target both tigers, high-ranking officials, and flies, low-level officials, simultaneously, determined to punish corruption with the resolve of scraping poison off the bone and cutting off one's own wrist. Under his leadership, the power of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, CCDI, was greatly enhanced. The CCDI, led first by Wang Qishan, later by Zhao Leji and Li Shi, launched an anti-graft storm rarely seen in CCP history. A large number of high-ranking party, government, and military tigers, including Zhou Yongkang, Bo Xilai, Guo Buxiong, Su Kaiho, Sun Zhenkai, and Ling Jihua, fell from grace, while countless fly-level officials were also investigated. This anti-corruption struggle, on one hand, did combat severe corruption, rectify official conduct, win some popular support, and consolidate the CCP's ruling foundation. On the other hand, it was widely seen as an effective means for him to eliminate political rivals, consolidate personal power, and break the existing power structure. Through anti-corruption, Xi Jinping rapidly established personal authority, deterred potential political opponents, and firmly grasped power in his own hands. Simultaneously, Xi Jinping broke away from the collective leadership model gradually formed since the Deng Xiaoping era. By establishing multiple central leading groups, later upgraded to commissions, personally headed by him, such as the Central Comprehensively Deepening Reforms Commission, the Central National Security Commission, the Central Financial and Economic Affairs Commission, and the Central Cyberspace Affairs Commission, he highly centralized decision-making power over core areas involving the party, government, military, domestic and foreign affairs, economy, and security into his own hands. This model of governing through small groups/committees bypassed some traditional decision-making procedures of the Politburo and the State Council, greatly enhancing his personal decision-making efficiency and power, but also triggering concerns about excessive concentration of power and increased decision-making risks. The most significant landmark event was the amendment to the Constitution passed by the National People's Congress in March 2018, which removed the provision that the President and Vice President shall serve no more than 2 consecutive terms. This move dismantled the institutional constraint established in the Deng era to prevent excessive personal power concentration and life tenure, opening the door for Xi Jinping's long-term, potentially lifelong, rule. This sparked huge controversy both domestically and internationally, and is widely regarded as a major turning point in China's political development, symbolizing the unprecedented consolidation of Xi Jinping's personal power. In the military sphere, Xi Jinping carried out equally drastic reforms. He proposed the strong army dream, emphasizing the party's absolute leadership over the military, demanding the army to obey the party's command, be able to fight and win battles, and maintain an excellent work style. Through deepening national defense and military reforms, he restructured the CMC headquarters system, redrew theater commands, and optimized the structure of services and branches, aiming to enhance the military's modernization level and combat capability. Concurrently, anti-corruption within the military was pursued with unprecedented force. The downfall of former CMC Vice Chairman Guo Buxiong and Su Kaiho demonstrated his determination to cleanse the military and ensure the absolute loyalty of the barrel of the gun. 2. Reshaping and tightening of ideology. Xi Jinping attaches great importance to ideological construction, viewing it as a fundamental issue concerning the survival of the regime. Shortly after taking office, he proposed the core concept of the Chinese dream of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation to consolidate social consensus and stimulate national pride. The Chinese dream became the main theme running through the Xi Jinping era. In 2017, at the 19th CCP National Congress, Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era was enshrined in the party constitution and in 2018, written into the state constitution, becoming the CCP's new guiding ideology. This vast ideological system covers politics, economy, culture, society, ecology, diplomacy, party building, and more. Its core tenets include upholding and developing socialism with Chinese characteristics, achieving the two centenary goals, advancing the modernization of the national governance system and capacity, and building a community with a shared future for mankind. Official media hailed it as the latest achievement of the Sinicization of Marxism and Marxism for 21st century China. The establishment of Xi thought marked Xi Jinping's personal theoretical authority reaching a level comparable to Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping. To consolidate the guiding position of Xi thought, the ideological sphere was comprehensively tightened. Xi Jinping emphasized that party media must be surnamed party, requiring news and public opinion work to adhere to the correct political direction. Media and internet controls became increasingly strict. The Great Firewall was continuously reinforced, and crackdowns on dissenting voices, civil society, human rights lawyers, independent scholars, and NGOs persisted. Ideological control in universities was further consolidated, emphasizing classroom discipline and textbook censorship. Management of religious affairs also became stricter, emphasizing the direction of Sinicization of religion. Signs of a personality cult grew increasingly apparent, with Xi Jinping's image, quotes, and writings proliferating in media, public spaces, and study materials. The two establishing Comrade Xi Jinping's core position on the party central committee and in the party as a whole, and establishing the guiding role of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, and the two safeguards, resolutely upholding General Secretary Xi Jinping's core position on the Party Central Committee and in the party as a whole, and resolutely upholding the Party Central Committee's authority and its centralized, unified leadership became the primary criteria for measuring political loyalty. 3. Major domestic and foreign policy initiatives and challenges. Economically, the Xi Jinping administration introduced the concept of the new normal, attempting to shift China's economy from high-speed growth to high-quality development. Supply-side structural reform, cutting overcapacity, reducing inventory, deleveraging, lowering costs, and strengthening weak links, promoting technological self-reliance, and building a modern economic system became policy priorities. He personally planned and promoted the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, aiming to enhance connectivity and trade cooperation with countries along the routes, expanding China's geopolitical and economic influence. This grand initiative, however, faces challenges such as debt risks, geopolitical competition, and environmental and social impacts. In recent years, facing an increasingly complex domestic and international environment, he proposed the dual circulation new development pattern, emphasizing the need to smooth domestic circulation while better connecting domestic and international circulations. The sudden tightening of regulation on large tech platform companies, like the clampdown on Alibaba, Tencent, Didi, and the promotion of the common prosperity goal have also profoundly impacted China's economic landscape and market expectations. In social governance, targeted poverty alleviation was vigorously promoted as a landmark project. The government officially declared in 2021 that rural poverty under the current standard had been completely eliminated, achieving world-renowned success, although its sustainability and the standard itself are subject to some discussion. Ecological civilization construction was elevated to an unprecedented height. The concept that lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets gained deep traction. China demonstrated greater determination in pollution control, promoting energy transition and participating in global climate governance, but also faces immense pressure for emissions reduction. In terms of national security and border governance, methods became more assertive. In Hong Kong, facing large-scale anti-extradition bill protests in 2019, the central government forcefully implemented the Hong Kong National Security Law in 2020, effectively suppressing opposition voices and reshaping Hong Kong's political landscape, but also triggering international concerns about the future of one country, two systems. In Xinjiang, targeting what the government defines as the three evil forces, violent terrorism, ethnic separatism, religious extremism, the government adopted a series of severe measures, including establishing vocational skills education and training centers, termed re-education camps by the West, which triggered widespread international criticism and sanctions regarding human rights issues. Diplomatically, Xi Jinping abandoned the hide your strength and bide your time strategy of the Deng Xiaoping era, advocating for striving for achievement in major country diplomacy. He proposed the concept of building a community with a shared future for mankind, attempting to provide Chinese solutions for global governance. China plays an increasingly active and confident role in international affairs, actively participating in the reform of the global governance system and enhancing its voice in international organizations like the United Nations and the World Trade Organization. However, China's rise has also triggered vigilance and suspicion from Western countries led by the United States. Sino-US relations rapidly shifted from coexistence of cooperation and competition to strategic rivalry and even confrontation, escalating across trade, technology, ideology, and geopolitics, especially concerning the Taiwan issue. China's wolf warrior diplomatic style also sparked considerable controversy, leading to strained relations with some Western countries and neighboring nations. 4. Responding to major crises and challenges. During his tenure, Xi Jinping has also faced a series of severe challenges and crises. The most prominent among these was undoubtedly the COVID-19 pandemic, which broke out in late 2019 and swept the globe. Initial response measures in Wuhan faced some criticism. Subsequently, however, China adopted an extremely strict, dynamic zero-COVID policy. Through mass testing, mandatory quarantines, lockdowns, and other measures, it effectively controlled the widespread transmission of the virus for a considerable period, maintaining relatively low infection and mortality rates and enabling an early economic recovery. However, the dynamic zero-COVID policy also came at a huge economic and social cost, severely impacting people's lives and causing some social discontent. Finally, in late 2022, facing the high transmissibility of the Omicron variant and socioeconomic pressures, China abruptly abandoned the dynamic zero-COVID policy, shifting to a full reopening. This sharp U-turn, while allowing social life to gradually return to normal, also led to massive infections and strained medical resources in a short period. Evaluating the successes and failures of China's pandemic response model remains a complex and controversial topic. Furthermore, increasing downward pressure on the economy, demographic shifts, aging population, low birth rate, real estate risks, local government debt, technological choke points, and a deteriorating international environment are all major challenges that the Xi Jinping administration must continuously confront and address. In October 2022, the 20th CCP National Congress convened in Beijing. Xi Jinping was re-elected as CCP General Secretary without suspense, beginning his third term as the party's paramount leader, breaking the precedent set since the reform and opening up era. The new Politburo Standing Committee consists almost entirely of his protégés and supporters, demonstrating that his power has reached its zenith. Summarizing the journey of the Xi Jinping era thus far, he is undoubtedly a leader with a strong sense of mission and historical consciousness. He seeks to lead China towards achieving the grand goal of national rejuvenation and reshaping China's domestic order and international status through strong leadership and top-level design. Under his rule, China has made significant achievements in economic strength, technological level, military power, and international influence, and national cohesion and pride have been enhanced. But simultaneously, the excessive concentration of power, the rise of a personality cult, the tightening of ideology, The compression of social freedoms and strained relations with the Western world also bring uncertainties and potential risks to China's future development. Xi Jinping has profoundly changed China and profoundly influenced the world. His era continues, and how history will ultimately judge the merits and demerits of this strongman leader remains to be seen. Whether the blueprint he has drawn can be fully realized, and where the path he has chosen will lead China, concerns not only the fate of 1.4 billion Chinese people, but also affects the future landscape of the entire world. Conclusion. Xi Jinping's life journey spans from the glory of a revolutionary family to the tribulations of the Cultural Revolution, from the tempering on the Loess Plateau to his rise along the southeastern coast, ultimately ascending to the pinnacle of power and ushering in an era that profoundly impacts China and the world. His experiences shaped his character. His ideology drives his actions. To understand Xi Jinping is to grasp a crucial facet of contemporary Chinese history. There is still much more to explore and discuss regarding his story and the future of China under his leadership. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you for listening.